The key to improving your practice and elevating it to new heights is not going out and doing a bunch of fancy CE. It's not doing anything groundbreaking most of the time. It's often identifying the lowest hanging fruit, again, within your four walls, and then taking action on those items. Now, no, I did not say that it was easy. That is not the case at all. But it's about identifying the right things to focus on and then making progress towards those things. Three of the biggest needle movers that I see oftentimes when working with new clients. The biggest needle movers to take you from where you're at to where you want to be, to grow your practice, to improve your life as a result. These are some of the lowest hanging fruit that I come in contact with when working with clients. And again, not the easiest things, but often the lowest hanging fruit, the things that we focus on first. Number one, schedule optimization. So many practices, so many doctors have schedules that are not optimized. The most common example is that there's been very little instruction to your front desk team and your entire team on how to schedule. And when that's the case, your team members think they're doing a good job when the day is full of appointments. It doesn't necessarily matter what's going on in those appointments. It doesn't necessarily matter what the production level is of those appointments. It's just that if we have space on the schedule and it's full, the front desk is happy. And then as a dentist and as an owner, you're wondering why you're not performing to the level that you want to. You're wondering why you have this roller coaster of days and months where you have a great day one day and then you have an empty schedule the next day, or a low production schedule the next day. And it just roller coasters and seesaws back and forth. That's exhausting. So optimizing your schedule, truly teaching your team how to schedule, how to do that effectively and efficiently, is one of the lowest hanging fruit that I see in so many practices. Now, there are a lot of different ways to schedule in a dental office, and I truly believe that there's not really a one-size-fits-all situation. I do have some preferences, and one of those main preferences would be that we have a daily production goal that we are scheduling to before we move on to the next day. Gosh, I could do 15 podcasts on scheduling, but we'll condense it into a couple minutes here. By scheduling to a daily production goal, you are not being a money-hungry, greedy dentist trying to squeeze more money out of your patients. You simply aren't. What you're doing is you're saying, I am a dentist who has a finite amount of energy and time every day, and I want to create consistency with what I'm doing each day. We all know that doing crown and bridge and doing implants or root canals, those are our high doctor time, high production appointments. And we know that doing fillings here or there, crown seats, limited exams, those are less productive, but less doctor time. So we need to have a balance throughout our day. And by scheduling to a goal, we are able to create that balance versus just saying, you know what, let's just throw everything on the schedule. And as long as we don't see any blank space there, we're good to go. Not only does that make your business better, but it makes, in my opinion, it makes you a better dentist because you're not having those days where you're just wiped out at 5 p.m. and then following up with a day that, you feel like you haven't done anything. So having a defined scheduling system and actually implementing it and keeping your team honest is such an important needle mover. Number two, having actual systems in your practice and setting proper expectations with team members for their performance. You don't need to be a bossy boss to be a great leader in your practice, meaning you don't need to micromanage people constantly throughout the day. You also don't need to have a 100-page long office manual full of systems for every little thing in your office. Sure, I want you to build out systems and have organization in your office, but it is not a requirement to have that right off the bat, or it's not a requirement to have this perfectly detailed office manual to be a good practice. But in this client's case that I mentioned to you, we evaluated his team and we identified that several of his team members were underperforming. They just weren't doing things the way he wanted them to be done. And the way he wanted them done, these tasks in his practice, those things were very reasonable. These were things that needed to improve. So instead of just standing idly by, he identified the things that needed to improve, communicated those things with his team, and kept them accountable to those changes. And again, that doesn't mean you sit down people in your office and you get all stern with them and kind of lay it all on the line. It doesn't have to happen that way. But by creating creating clear expectations for performance, magically, his team members started to improve what they were doing in his practice. And then he also began to implement systems on the most important things that needed to be done in his practice. So instead of having sticky notes left and right for everybody in the practice to get their tasks done every day, we started to pick the most important things that needed to be systemized in his practice. I provided him with a number of resources to jumpstart him, basically resources to tweak for his own practice, but then implement and use with his team. And instantly his focus was able to shift from all this admin stuff that has to happen in your practice to doing actual dentistry. And then we saw the jump in his production and collections that I told you about at the beginning of the podcast. Clear expectations, clear systems goes such a long way in your practice. Don't rely on sticky notes or hoping that your team members perform the way you want them to. If you do that, you're just going to be disappointed. Number 3 is leadership and communication. Leadership of your team and communication with your team and with patients. One of my favorite exercises is to have a client record a treatment plan presentation, either the actual audio with proper consent and all the legal mumbo jumbo that has to happen, or by doing a mock or a role play with the team member. And every single time we've done this, and I mean it, every single time, we have found ways to improve that dentist's communication when talking about treatment with a patient. And then every single time, their treatment acceptance improves, and as a result, their collections and production in their practice grows. This is not about reinventing the wheel. It's not about learning to do more procedures. It's just about how do we communicate with our patients to help them understand the bread and butter dentistry that they need to improve their health and improve their lives, and then get them on our schedule to do that treatment for them. And in the same vein, how do we communicate and lead our teams more effectively? How do we set those expectations that I just alluded to? How are we keeping them accountable to the things that they need to be doing in our practice on a day-to-day basis? That's not easy. I remember day one of being an owner in my practice, I had no clue what I was doing when leading a team or communicating with patients, to be honest. But with reps and with guidance and with diligent practice, this is an area that you can improve. And it is an area that I think is one of the most, if not the most important ways to improve and grow your practice, and honestly to just improve and grow as a practitioner and as a person, being able to communicate effectively with others. These were 3 things that we worked on right away, myself and this dentist, and saw an immediate improvement and an immediate jump in his practice. He didn't go out and take a bunch of fancy CE. He didn't buy some new piece of equipment that he thought would improve his ability to do dentistry, or spend a bunch of money on something that he didn't really need. We looked introspectively at these big picture items and put in the work to make him better very quickly. And so that's what I encourage you to do, is to not look outside your practice, to not make excuses, to not think that it's your patient's fault, your team's fault, to look at yourself, to look inside your 4 walls and think about the things that really move the needle. Most of the time, those are going to be things that aren't easy to improve, meaning that it's going to be difficult, it's going to be awkward, it's going to be uncomfortable. But if that's the case, those are probably the things that we need to work on the most, or we'll see the most reward from improving at the end of the journey. Thanks for being with me today, guys. I hope that this was a helpful, quick hitter of an episode to make you think about where you can improve in your practice. If you want to dive into this a little bit more, if you want to know what a one-on-one coaching relationship looks like, feel free to email me, matt@thelifestylepractice.com. Head on over to our website, thelifestylepractice.com, fill out that lifestyle and practice assessment, and Derek, Steve, or I will get back to you. Go do something great for your patients today. Go live your lives to their fullest, and I will talk to you again soon on the Lifestyle Practice Podcast. Thanks, everybody.